Welcome to an episode of the Dragon Capture Jar, where I take a random dragon monster and talk about it off the cuff. So, it is week 2 of October, Halloween season, so I'm in the spirit, wearing a mask, kitty cat mask, because I ran out of, I'm pretty sure I ran out of themes for dragons, but that doesn't mean everything I have here is all sunshine and rainbows. Okay, I do have some scary ones, and the jar did capture something that was quite scary at the time, and it caused a lot of conflict with rulings, which is why we have more specific text in the card. So, what is this dragon? Well, it is the twin-headed Behemoth. So, it is a level 3 wind monster. It's a dragon, and he is quite scary looking. It's got twin heads, although the heads are on his arms, not on his head. Like a twin-headed dragon monster. That's what you would think for twin-headed, but okay. So, why was this card so scary at the time? Now, it did have a pretty powerful effect, but this card got nerfed in GOAT format. You know, back in the day, there's a limit to 1, but it wasn't because of its effect, even though it was decent. So, if this card is destroyed and sent to the field, from the field to the graveyard, special summon it during the end phase of this turn with 1,000 and attack and defense. So it's not bad. I mean, it was a good way to have some defense. And of course, it was during the end phase, which means that on the start of your turn, this guy was there and you can use it for something else. I mean, if you have another monster on the field, you can use this as tribute fodder. It's a really quick way to get out Summon Skull, because that was a powerful card that only needed 1 tribute. So he was really useful for that. However, that was not the reason why this card was limited to 1. It all has to do with the last line. And this mask makes it pretty hard to read. So you can only use this effect once per duel. So this is the very first example of what you would call a hard once per turn. But the concept of a soft once per turn was still new too. So technically this really meant a soft once per turn, but we didn't really know at the time. Now, of course, back when I was a judge, these details were still being ironed out. And of course, there were some rulings that my fellow judge and I, we would have to, sit down and talk about. Okay, so what does this mean? How do we resolve this conflict in the game? We weren't sure. So this did mean that there were probably some rulings we did mess up, but given the state of the game at the time, that was pretty natural. So why was this nerfed to 1 card at the time? Well, it wasn't because of its power, obviously, but because it's a the once per duel restriction, which the wording was just problematic. So before the ruling, the text change would make it apply to all copies of the card. The restriction applied only to individual copies according to the text. So it would be impossible to keep track of which copy used this effect if they were, shuffled back into the deck or drawn again. So this had to be limited to stop all that from happening. So if you had 3 copies of this in your deck and you used 1, okay, so this card was used up, but technically you could use the other 2, hence the soft once per turn, but because it says once per duel, that would mean the others would be useless, but you have to keep track of which one. This was the conundrum it was causing, and we were just, okay, what do we do? This got back to Upper Deck, at the time, and Konami, and they decided, okay, we don't know how to solve this quite yet, so we're going to nerf this to once per deck, just to play it safe. You didn't keep track of anything. But then the erratas occurred, so now we know this is a soft once per turn. You can have 3 in your deck, and it just made things easier. So yes, I remember these conundrums. It was pretty wild, and I'm so glad they were ironed this out. You can see by reading these old cards the evolution of how card texts played out. So anyway, do any of you remember this whole conundrum, this question, why was this nerfed? Well, now you know why. Let me know in the comments below. And remember to be a good sport, to play the game, not the fame. See ya!